So that's that. So all right, so it's coming along slowly but surely. And I just got that finished that boat, so it took me all of a good hour and 50 minutes just to paint that boat right there. Wow, that's a lot of time just for one little piece of detail. So I can get a good idea how long it's going to take me to paint all the other elements that I want to paint based on how long it took me to do that. And that would probably mean that I'm not going to get through all of the things because I never, since I've been doing this, I would say, I like to do this, I like to do that. And I've actually never been able to get done everything that I said I was going to do at the beginning of the day. But I still been able to get a lot done on this painting, because here it is, 7 weeks later. And I'm actually, it's not even so, I think it's still 6 and some change. Now the 21st, let's see, you get to 21st of the next month. Well, it's only 28 days in February. So that's that, 7 days. Then we had 31 days in March. So 7 plus 31, that's 38 days. And then of course we're on what, the 4th, so 4 more days. 32 days. 7 times 6 is 42. So exactly 6 weeks. This is not 7 weeks. I thought it was 7 weeks. I don't know. See, that's how tired I am. So I got to build in. I have to build in a rest day. Else I'm going to wear myself out by the time this coronavirus is over with. I don't want to do that. That's too much. I don't want to bring down my immune system because I'm trying to avoid getting the thing. I might as well just go out and get it real quick and get it over with. You know, but I hear it can be real bad, so don't want to do that. But that is a good strategy. Before the ICUs fill up, and you don't even have a capacity to get help because there's literally no ICU beds, why not just deliberately get sick? Go in, recover in like 2 or 3 weeks, and then, well, that's if you can recover. But what I hear is cutting off people's air, they're fighting for their dear life. That's okay. I think I'd rather just quit. That part is more scary than just dying. You know, if you just died, that'd be great. But you gotta, before, and then even if you didn't die, you still have to go through that. That's pretty scary. Who wants to deal with that? You know, that don't sound like a day in the park right there. Okay, so I got that boat done. Now let me find the other boat, because I like the way that one looks. This is a little boat coming from behind his Nemi. I'm going to paint that later, but that's just only like the tip of another boat. And you just get the idea that there's more and more boats just coming. So, yeah, that boat's good. I think that's going to be, there might be some touches on that, but I think that's the final that I'm going to do on that boat. Let me get another boat going and see, about that boat. Okay, where's my other boats at? This is one boat. That's not the boat I want to do just yet. Because I think I worked on that boat yesterday, so I kind of have that boat done. So I'm going to set this boat aside. Set this one aside. And then I'm going to set, there's that one. Put this here because I'm going to paint that next too. And this boat here is next. And this one has 3 boats in it. Okay, so. And I think what they did with these boats, the reason they had these little bends on them like this, they would literally put a rope here once they dock them. And they would basically just hook it. That was like an anchor to keep it, anchored to whatever harbor they had or whatever, dock. So form follows function, so that's a reason it looks like a flower coming out of the Nile River, but it also kind of has a little style to it, you know, and it also has a function because it served as a hook, so you just throw a rope around it. It's like a little knob on the end. It's a flower, but there's a little knob on the end, and you just, it's like a little noose rope, and you just fasten your boat up, and you're good to go. All right, so going back to my little teeny brushes again. I'm still painting little teeny details. And this is a 18/0 right here that I kind of have on deck. I'm not using it yet. Just keep it on deck in case something gets really tiny. And basically using like zeros or ones or like 3/0 or something. I think I got those right now. And I'm going to paint, now I'm going to paint this other boat here. This boat is a little bit slightly lower. I still need to come up to get to it so I can see what I'm painting. Okay, and these little details are just so tiny, but they still need to be painted well. And like I say, from 10, 15 feet away, it all blends in. Nobody can see it. Like if I'm here, I'm this far away, it looks fine. And I'm going to say that I'm about, shucks, let's do it scientifically. I'm going to just get my tape measure. You know, if somebody to buy this, they'll know what the artist thought. Because look at that, I'm doing some science now on my art. Okay, so literally, I am, geez, I'm not even 10 feet away. It's already blended. So I'm 8 feet away right now. If I go up there, it might even be closer because I'm going up. Okay, so maybe I can kind of, that's still 8 feet. Okay, so I'm 8 feet away and you cannot see that detail. And is that what I'm intending the picture to be viewed from? Yes. I mean, I see some little details I need to do right there. Well, actually, sometimes, boom, there you go. Okay, I still need to touch that though. I need to touch that right there. In fact, no time like the present. Okay. Get some clean medium. Just a smidge. Like I say, sometimes oil paint never dries. It just dries really, really slow. It might take 100 years to fully cure. Now, when I say dry, it's dry to the touch. It's dry for all practical purposes. But there is still some pliability to it because it's going to take a very long time to dry. And that's why it lasts so long. That's why it looks good for so long. You know, when you see people's oil paintings that have gotten brittle, the old ones like from the 1600s and things that gotten brittle, it's because literally that was kept in a dry place and somebody used something trying to conserve it, and basically what they did was suck all the daggone oil out of the thing. You know, trying to get it to totally set up. And that's not always what you want to do. Like now, this color right here has been sitting here for about 2-3 days, but it's still open. And I'm able to actually take a bristle brush now, not a sable hair brush, and just work some of this color a little bit better. Model this color a little bit nicer. And I'm really liking that. And that's the beauty of oil. I can tone this kind of yellow medium into this violet color that I put up here. It's pastel violet kind of color. And I could control everything from the brush stroke to the tonality to the blend quality, how much it's going to blend. And to me, this happens in 15 minutes with acrylic. And it's just not enough time. Because I can take care of stuff like this days later, weeks later, sometimes, which is very good. So, truth be told, if somebody wanted to buy this painting right now, I would still want to wait another week or so before I go to ship it, because I want to make sure all of the paint is at least set up. Now, set up means it's ready. However, when I say is it dry, it's totally different. If it's dry enough to ship, then it's dry enough, but it's still going to be doing its thing. The paint is going to be doing, it's going to be going through it's a chemistry. Basically, oil painting is basically chemistry. Essentially, that's what it is. You almost have to be a chemist. Yeah, to be an artist and survive, you almost have to be a businessman. Well, you're not almost, you have to be. As well as an artist with some talent. Matter of fact, I know people that could just be business. It's better just to be a businessman than to have a lot of paint talent, believe it or not. You can be more successful as an artist by being just a good business person with your art. Then here's a guy working in the corner. He's really, really good. I mean, this guy is like a maestro. This guy is just like, oh my God, the work is off the chisang. I mean, it's just like, whoa. But he's a terrible business person. And what happens is he's struggling, man. I mean, he's just like struggling. And he doesn't know why this guy over here whose work don't look nothing like his in terms of talent. Why is this guy doing so good and this other cat over here just struggling? Well, he's a better businessman than you are. And if you want to be a good businessman, you gotta practice at that just as much as you practice as your art. You know, you might have to take some classes in that, you know. And yes, they do have business art classes in art school. People say, well, you know, you just paint. In art school, you just painting. Well, suppose I took economics classes. Suppose I took some business classes because that's what you have to do if you're going to be a fine artist. But if you're going to be a commercial artist, you don't. You just go, teach you how to get your resume together. You get that together, and you basically punch the clock. That's different. No. Generally at my school, at VCU, my undergraduates work like this. Is that after your freshman year, everybody kind of goes to this foundation core program where they have the fashion designers, they have the fine artists, the commercial artists, the printmakers, everybody, the people who just want to do stage design, for example, who was painting those stages, and they're all in the same class. Because the first skill you got to be able to do is draw. Got to be able to draw, and you got to be able to draw well, and you got to be able to draw fast. First skill you got to be able to do. If you can't do those, then you probably don't want to be a professional artist. Because I don't care where you go, commercial art, the number one thing you're going to have to do is work fast, especially commercial art. Okay, now if you're going to be a fine artist, outside of drawing and being able to work fast, you're going to have to be a businessman, or you're going to be miserable. Because really all you like to do, because you're a fine artist, and you're a good fine artist, and so really at your core, all you really like doing is painting. Maybe you don't even like dealing with people. You know, if I could just sit in the studio, be a hermit, never see another human being, that'd be great. I'm not saying that's me. I'm saying there's some people I know that's how they think. I've heard people even say that. That's fine. I love that. I'm going, man, I don't know, man. I don't know if you can do that, you know. Of course, that's why you need to have that person in a class. And so a person can say, actually, you need to take this business class right here. And if you want to keep your nice GPA up, make the dean's list, you better get an A in it, so you better be good at it. So, of course, a lot of times people let that go, you know. So, oh, man, I don't want that. I'm not interested in that. They get a C at that thing, man. Because they're not interested. But then only to find out, actually, there's a lot of business you got to do. Not a little bit. It's almost all the time, every day, you're a business person. Now, you're a marketer, you're an advertiser. You're everything. A lot of artists tend to be those things because They learn how to survive. They learn how to keep their artwork going and survive doing those things. So then, there's a need at a company to be the marketing person. The artists say, well, you know what? They let the artists go. The artist is the first. The thing is there's a saying in the art world, the last person hired, first person fired. Like now with the coronavirus, people had to let some people go. The first people that went was the art department. Gone. Everybody in the art department, firing them all. We can't hold all these people. Just keep the essential personnel. That's going to be the people that's actually making the product. Well, all you're doing is making the product look sexy, making the product look like something somebody want to buy. And they don't care about that because in a pandemic, evidently, they're going to just bum rush the store and just hoard everything. You run out of one sanitizer, which is the number one seller. They don't care. This is the water I like, because that's how I was because I like the Deer Park spring water. I get to the store, man, that's all gone. So then people was like, I like Deer Park too, but boom, and before I could even look and finish my choice, they had already cleared out another brand. I said, okay, that was the next brand I was gonna pick. Then I'm sitting there trying to figure out which the other brand I'm gonna use, and boom, they taking that brand. And then by the time I finished thinking all the way, almost all the water was gone except for 2 or 3 little juggalos like this. It was sitting there way in the back. I said, Deer Box. I grabbed it. Because I usually get like the 16-ounce bottles. But man, I just got whatever I could. I was lucky. I said, well, they ain't see that. I got the last laugh, Stuff was getting kind of surreal, kind of funny, man. Kind of comical, I said, man, this is what people do during a pandemic. So here I am, actually in a pandemic. People don't get to see this but once in a lifetime. And here we are. So you're in an actual pandemic here. This is like the Black Plague, the bubonic plague of Europe back in whatever day, Straight up a pandemic, man. And you get an idea of probably what they did. They probably did worse back then because they were probably dumber and less educated. Not to say that people are smarter now. So clearly plagues ain't that much fun, man. Just with the people that got little means that they just lock themselves up somewhere. And let all the little peasants just fight for themselves. Seems like to me that's what's happening, it happens a lot. Because they got to make sure the kingdoms stay together now. So okay, we don't want our enemies coming in and taking advantage. And so you guys be ready to be soldiers in a minute if I need you. But for right now, stay to yourself. I don't want that bubonic plague. Let me lock up the daggone moat here. Keep these dudes out till this is over with. Kind of reminds me of the story that's in the Bible where they had the plagues in Egypt. Since we're dealing the pain of Egypt, they had the plagues in Egypt and they painted the blood. I always thought that was really morbid. They painted the blood over the doorposts of the Hebrew people so that the death angel could pass by. That's almost exactly what we're doing. Are we not quarantined? Because that's what they were. They were told to stay in the house. That's quarantine. They were told to stay in the house, don't go anywhere, and paint some blood over the doorpost. Now, I think the blood over the doorpost, that's some over-the-top drama. But I think perhaps somebody might have known something, or by accident, they survived because of this, because of that particular thing. That's if there's such a thing as this story. I mean, that's assuming that the story is true. Let's assume that the story is true. Probably ain't true, but if we assume it's true, I can see how you could survive a pandemic. The people that just walking in the street just as normal, they're going to be dropping like flies. But the people that stayed at home, the death angel passes over them. They didn't get the pandemic. They didn't get the virus. The death angel is the virus. If you want to call it an angel, it's a virus that hit. And that makes you think, has people seen viruses before? I mean, we're doing these quarantines. We kind of automatically knew, let's do this quarantine thing. I mean, how did we ever figure out having quarantine saves you from, how do we figure out how a quarantine saves you from a plague? Obviously, somebody figured out, hey, if we sit inside and stay away from the peasants that's out there dying, somebody figured this out somewhere. At some point in time, we're going to be okay, but they're going to be jacked up because they're out there just spreading that virus around. But if we just stay inside, stay locked up real tight, we're going to miss this. Okay, so everybody stay inside. And then once everybody finish dying, you don't hear people out there moaning and groaning and dying. No, there's no movement. Coast is clear. The virus has died off. There's no more host that can, that can get got. And I'm pretty sure they sent like somebody, a peon out first. If he dropped dead, not over yet. Not over yet. Let's stay back, stay inside some more. Throw him over the field somewhere. Get some other peon to throw him on the field, then leave him out there. Then he die off, and then they wait a little longer, send another peon out there. And then finally, okay, now we can come back out. Somebody figured you can come out, and they stayed alive. So you can come back out now. So people figure that out. Quarantine is the way that you survive plagues. Tried and proven. Thousands of years. Quarantine. That's how it's done. That's how it's done. It's not really done any other way but quarantine. Oops, that's too much. And what I'm doing is I'm mixing this right here on the canvas. It's not really the right way, but it's not the way I like to, but sometimes it's the way I do it. There's no such a thing as a right or wrong way, but it's not my preferred way, but it's doable. If you do it right, you can get away with it. All right, and these are just finishing touches, finishing touches. Trying to make everything look suave. Finishing touches. Okay. Leslie, what's up? How you doing, Leslie? Good to see you. Esamina, what's up? How you doing? Thank you for sharing this. You always do the thank you for sharing this. Sheila Fisher, what's up? Anderson's Vinny. How you do? But today is the last day of this training. I've done 6 weeks. So it's 42 days actually. I only missed one of 42 days. So it's actually 41 days. And this is what I have. And I'm going to stretch another painting started from scratch. This exists. I've already gone to Lowe's to pick up the wood. The canvas is here. I think I showed the canvas in another live I've done. So the canvas is here. The gesso is here. And I'm going to build that stretcher either in this room or out in my patio. I haven't decided which place I'm going to do it at yet. But it's going to be, I think the forecast I looked at already, it's going to be nice tomorrow. So I might just do it outside so I can get some sun. Because I haven't been able to get any sun in a while here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out just painting without my painting stick. I'm going to grab my palette, step up on this apple box, and I'm painting this. I already painted this boat. I kind of like that. For being 2 feet away, which is here, the average person is going to be standing here. I don't know if anybody's going that much closer to this. If so, they're going to see my little painting brush strokes in there. And it's okay. I don't mind them seeing that because I have some interesting impasto in there. And brush strokes, I think, is interesting. I like looking at them. And so I paint them in because I believe other people like them too. That's what I believe. Now, I could be wrong. You guys tell me, do you just like photorealistically painted things as flat? Leave a comment. Do you like things as photorealistically painted flat? Or do you like to see paintings with the brush strokes, the hand of the artist in it? Still photorealistic, but it has like that painterly brush quality where you can see some impastos, you know, the texture of the paint, like a Rembrandt type of a look as opposed to a Rubin type of look, you know. So Rubin painted one way, Rembrandt painted a different way. Both of them were masters. Both of them have some beautiful art. To look at them, you would appreciate both artists, but completely different. Both of them are realistic paintings, by the way, because back then there was absolutely no photography. So people were buying their paintings. They were dukes and lords and earls and baroness and counts and people like that. So they were buying the painting, you know, like we would buy today. You go to a very nice portrait studio. And what they wanted was to capture themselves, their image or their family's image, so that future generations can know who they were. Also, if there was a society person, it's so that other people from their society can know, I did this during this time, this is who I am. You know, here's my painting. I was painted by a very prominent artist, a meaningful artist of my day. So therefore, pay attention to me, because not anybody painted me, but this is one of the better artists painted me. And I think that's what that was all about. I mean, today, because they are old and they represent a time that gone by, we look at them and say, oh my gosh, I mean, these are art, they're art. But really, it was a very functional use for it. I mean, it's basically just what I explained, is that they just wanted to capture who they were for future generations. And again, this painting that I'm doing today is the finishing touches, literally, it's the finishing touches. And it's really, this type of painting is really designed for whoever takes ownership, or if it's in a gallery and people are able to, if it's kind of like a gallery that only has like a 10 or 8 foot wall, this will fit on an 8 foot wall, but this painting is going to be on your, I mean, Haru might be a foot lower than this. So you literally be looking right in his face and in Haru's face. So you can get close to the painting. Some people let you get close. I mean, a lot of, especially the old master stuff, you can't, because they don't want you, the breath, when, you know, if you get 1,000 people going through like a art museum, just the breath from those people can wreak havoc on paintings. Because you have thousands and thousands of people every day, all day, coming through your museum, getting 2 feet away from the painting. And that leaves an effect on the actual piece. So what a lot of people do is they kind of have this little line and they tell you, okay, don't come that close, because the effect of your breath on the actual work is reduced. And it's not like your one breath is going to do anything. It's the combined breaths of all of the people that's going to come see that piece of work over time. So what they do is they're keeping everybody's breath kind of like away from the painting. You know, that's if like you go somewhere like Paris or somewhere and you're in the Louvre, you know, or you go to like some of these nice museums like in Spain. You're going to see these old works of art. And of course they have it all really preciously dealt with and secured, you know. I just heard just on the internet not too long ago that somebody went into a museum in Europe, and I think it was in Germany, and stole, or Dutch, somewhere like that, and literally stole a Van Gogh out of the museum. I think it was on the wall, and they snatched it off the wall and ran out of the museum with it. This just happened like weeks ago. And I guess the museum was kind of open. They just didn't have people who did that kind of thing. There's always a first. And so the person just stole a piece of art that's worth millions of dollars. Now, the problem with that, stealing art like that, is if it ever, you can't sell it. Because if you sold the work, you're going to go to jail. There's only one of those that exists. Somebody is going to, you're going to show it to somebody. Then they're going to say, oh, that's stolen, because they're going to, it's famous. And then they're going to just come get you. So that ain't going to work out too well. However, that's why I think somebody foreign stole it. Somebody was very wealthy. They told the person, look, you know, you steal this thing, you're going to go to jail, man. But the person said, you know, it's stealable. They made a deal with somebody. They said, okay, I'll give you $1 million. Because the thing is probably worth $100 million. And they don't even want to sell it. The person wants to possess it. They want to have that piece of art. And they're in a place where you don't get a lot of German or European visitors, probably in somebody's home. And he just wants a Van Gogh. And he doesn't care what he has to do, who he has to pay to go steal it. Or it could be just another European, maybe not a foreign person at all to that area, who wants that Van Gogh. You're not getting into his home because he has $1 million home with security in it. He only has so many people come in. And during his lifetime, while he's alive, he wants to look at that Van Gogh. You know, he wants that Van Gogh to be something that he possesses, that he owns. So that's that. So that was just recently stolen. I mean, like weeks ago. You know, at least I just heard about it actually days ago. I couldn't believe it because I've been studying some Van Gogh. I've been talking about it a lot on live here, Van Gogh. Then all of a sudden, something very unusual, not coronavirus, that's unusual, but something even more unusual. Somebody actually bum rushed an actual gallery, snatches this thing on the wall, because a lot of very expensive artworks are just literally hanging on the wall on a nail. You know, or some type of hook that can just easily be taken down. So that's why I think the person who stole it probably worked for that gallery, because they knew exactly how that thing is hung. Because a lot of times people bolt these things. You know, when you're a student, you kind of go to these galleries and you talk to people. And then sometimes you kind of like, they say don't touch the work, but then you'll touch it. And you say, oh my gosh, this ain't moving nowhere. This thing's bolted down. Or you just accidentally butt up against something and you realize this is literally bolted to the wall. This is bolted to the floor or whatever. Ain't nobody gonna steal this. It's kind of out in the open so you can get to it and see it. But it's kind of bolted down, you know? So the bottom line is, that's why I think it was somebody actually who worked at the museum, because who's going to just snatch a piece like that? Because once you touch it, there's going to be security guards all over the museum, cameras everywhere. Then you got to know exactly where the exits are so you can grab it and get out before the security guy get you. Okay, then you got to do all that. Then you got to get to the sidewalk before they can call 911 and get the regular police trailing on you. So you got to get it in some type of vehicle. You got to get it hidden. Now, a lot of Van Gogh's work wasn't that big. You know, he worked at about, you know, some of his sizes like 12 by 16, you know, maybe 24 inches in some of his dimensions, you know, 24 by 36, maybe some bigger ones. You know, his work wasn't really huge. Some of it was bigger, but a lot of his work wasn't that big. So I'm thinking it must have been one of those smaller ones. Because a lot of times, you know, they will put the biggest work of an artist in the museum. They'll want to show his most, you know, his biggest piece. That's why I'm doing these sizes right now. Because these are museum pieces. I mean, if you had a art gallery, this is the pieces that are going to stop the show, you know. People are going to walk in and say, okay, this is a serious art gallery right now. You know, this is, you know, and hopefully maybe somebody watching, if you want to make a deal with me, for me to be your gallery guy, you know, I'll provide you with X number of paintings per XYZ amount of time. I'll be more than happy to oblige you. Just jump in my inbox, hit my email, or give me a phone call. We can work. Now, actually, the tone that I painted, my example actually has a different. And since these are from the antiquities, I'm going to stick with my example because I painted this a different tone than what my example was. So I'm going to go back to my example. Again, these are little like miniature boats that was made during Kemet, during the time of Kemet, 4,000 years ago, that they have in the Cairo Museum, that I'm using to make these boats in my painting with. So these boats actually probably look a lot like the very boats that you might have seen in Kemet. Most likely they probably look a whole lot like that. Because that's actually boats that they made contemporary to their time. This is not somebody else's translation of what their boat looked like. This is not somebody's idea of what their technology was like. This is actually a copy, their own copy of boats that was contemporary to their time. And what I'm doing now is the finishing touches. Yes, I'm even putting some lobby paint in some of these finishing touches. Just some pretty paint. Just so the painting can look interesting. Just in case a person's head got closer to the painting than one should anticipate. This painting is meant to be seen from about, I have to revise, I said 10 feet away, 8 feet away. This painting is not really meant to be observed, at least as far as what I'm doing right now. Now, I'm sure you can do that, you know. You can have people just walk up, and I'm sure, and I've seen it, where people just walk all up and they're right there, you know. And my painting does have impasto in it. My painting has brushstroke textures. It is realistically painted. It looks photographic, sort of. I have my smaller version looks a little bit more, and I didn't like that look. I didn't, because people would look at it and they would get confused. They would say, "Oh, so what is that? Is that a photograph?" I said, "Well, how do you photograph Luxor Temple? This don't exist." You know, how do you photograph the pyramids? There's a Sphinx there, but they don't look like that one. There's pyramids there, but they're not configured that way. This is painted by me. It's all designed and placed the way I want it. Also, I think I need to go like 6 days a week and, like I said, 8 hours a day. So I'm switching from, I thought I was going to do 5-hour days. I'm going to switch to 8-hour days, 6 days a week, as opposed to 5-hour days, 7 days a week. So I'm still going to have a similar amount of time, but I'm starting from now on at about 4 o'clock, not 5:30 anymore. It's 4 o'clock to midnight. Of course, my live's probably going to be over from 4 o'clock to about 9 o'clock. Usually they've been over around 9:30, almost 10 o'clock sometimes. Depend on how long Facebook let me stay on before they pull me out. But now I painted that boat underneath Ra's ring differently. Then I had it painted, and it's looking different. Now I'm back further than 8 feet away. I'm actually now about 12 to 15 feet away. I'm not measuring it. It's based on where I was at 8 feet away. I'm thinking it's about 12 to 15 feet, somewhere in that zone. I'm thinking it's about 15 feet. And it looks different. It has a slightly different impression. Slightly different. There's going to be a lot of finishing touches that's going to go on this painting. But the painting has energy. And that's why I don't like necessarily. I like painting a certain gesturalness because the palm trees have a certain energy. The sky has a certain energy. Even the falcon's wings has a certain energy in it. I'm going to still paint on the falcon. The falcon is not finished yet. There's some stuff I need to do. Haru's crown is not finished yet. Haru's crown, or the Nimi, is not finished. The 2 columns is not totally finished yet. There are some touches that need to be done. Now, I don't have to do massive painting now at this point. I don't have to do massive painting on anything. It's just that it's not finished, Each one of these elements and their jewelry, the cuffs, the collars, the bracelets, all those things need about an hour a piece on them. The weapons probably need about 2 hours on them, maybe an hour and a half each. The Luxor Temple needs probably another 2 hours or so, or so, maybe 3. And maybe I might rework the Nile water. I don't know. Like I say, until I'm forced to let this painting go out of my studio, little changes like that are going to happen to those little things. Right now, I'm focusing on the boats. I started on a boat that's in the most background. The whole boat is in the most background. I didn't paint the other half boat. I'll do that later. And now I'm working on the second. I just finished up the second to the last boat. I'm looking at it from 15 feet away, and I like the way it looks. I like the way it's sitting in the water. I just like the way the sun looks like it's coming off of it. And it's got enough detail to stand to the integrity of a viewer's eye, naked eye, with 20/20 vision, about 24 inches away from the painting. Which is, you're closer than that, you're way too close. You really want to see my paint texture now. You want to see the type of canvas I purchased. Which I can tell you right now, it's 10 ounce medium tight mesh paint that was on a roll of 84 inches. Let me just tell you, that's what it is. So you don't have to get closer than 24 inches to know that. But the paint quality, the paint texture, 24 inches, you should be able to do a very good job at seeing that. If you saw this in a gallery or in a museum, art museum. It's a lively painting. The colors are very alive. There's no colors in this painting that's dull and dead and lifeless. Even my most dim browns are alive. You know, browns is kind of like neutrally, kind of like a gray. They are alive. So, so I'm gonna work on the third boat, which is that next one is closest to Ra's tail feathers. In a minute, I'm just kind of like. Sometimes when I paint, I just need to sit back and absorb what I just have done, just to see if that sits good with me. Especially when you're, that's why I like to block. I like this style of blocking the whole painting, like you guys have seen me from the beginning. Block it out, then paint in the blocking colors, then paint in the modeling colors, and start putting details in and putting everything where it has to go, and then just slowly work around the painting and sharpen everything up, because then the whole thing kind of comes into focus. Because what that does is just gives you the organic, just gives you like a whimsical feel, you know, like a person's mind space. It's not just a contrived painting, you know. Like I designed this and I was using my Wacom tablet and I decided to draw this and no, I didn't do that. I basically drew all of this. I painted every single thing. You see me putting, sometimes some of the boats were gesturally painted, 3 or 4 or 5 swipes of the brush, and it looks like a boat, Then now you're seeing me giving it a lot more strokes of the brush, hundreds, maybe thousands of those strokes of the brush, little teeny little strokes, more meticulously painting certain things, Even painting like some of the hairdos on some of the guys that's in the boat. And their little skirts, the little white skirts, But, it does look kind of nice the way it sits on the water. And, it looks like the sun is actually coming into some of those boats and interfacing with the people that's in them. So, looks very nice. And then also when you kind of, when you've been working on a painting like this one that I've been working on for 42 days, it does take a physical toll on you, on your body, on your mind space too, because it takes a lot of brain power, to make paintings like this. And you're constantly thinking about what you're doing, and it can be tiring. So I'm going to build in a day off. I think that's going to be Monday. Well, it might be like a rotating day, but instead of me coming every day, because sometimes it might be too much for everybody. But I don't want to take down the fun. I want to keep it so that people are excited. So I might just still pop in, but instead of focusing on painting, I might just come in and just talk for a few minutes and just kind of, do something like that. Or talk about art, or just do some kind of demonstration about something, But this is the last day officially of this. It's been 6 weeks exactly, 42 days. It might just be 41 because, like I said, I had a funeral day that I took off, but it's the allotted amount of days, which is 42 days, six weeks, and it's done. Like I said, I'll be adding finishing touches on other days until this leaves my studio. But, that's just like an hour here and there, 30 minutes, 15 minutes here and there, So this boat is in, so I'm gonna all the ones I'm gonna check them off and then stack their little examples, little references. Okay, now where's the next boat? Okay, I got 3 boats on this one, so gonna start working on the next boat. That boat looks pretty good. I like the way that look. I see some little colors on the little oars. Maybe I'll just touch it with a little bit of that. Yeah, I do want to do that. And see, sometimes, like I say, it's in my studio, and I'll see little things just like this, and I might just want to do a little something. And see, I'm just going to add some little, like some cobalt teal mixed with a slight bit of permanent green, and a little bit of titanium white mixed in there. And and probably a little bit of cobalt blue too. And I just want to get that paint quality on that oar just a little bit different than what it was. I have to say it's better, just different. And now I'm going to go into some ultramarine blue. And just paint that a little bit. in. These are literally the finishing touches. However, if somebody came in and said, okay, I'm taking this painting away right now, they were right outside the door, I would go ahead and let this painting go. I said, okay, just let me get a chance to finish this, that, and the other, and before this day is over, you can go home with it. I mean, I wouldn't be upset with this painting. So all this painting that I'm doing now is, I'm not going to say it's just extra, but it's finishing touches. Just that, it is extra. It's just that much extra. It's going to just make things more better, more better, more better. At least that's what I think. But I think what happens in reality, what's happening is artists like me, let's just say me, I'm not going to say artists like me, I could just go crazy, just constantly embellishing some more, embellishing a little bit more, and then embellishing a little bit more than that, you know, just going just nutty with it, and never get to an end. I mean, just never get to the end on that. And the thing ain't even looking that much different. A lot of you guys said a long time ago, like 3 weeks ago, you finished. I heard somebody say that. I said, oh, I'm not even nowhere near finished. But at that time, it, from a distance, it did look finished. But I knew there was a lot of other things that I usually would paint in that this painting should definitely get. You know, it should not, this painting should not have that. It should definitely have those things in the painting. So I definitely knew, no, not yet. But when it gets there, it's going to be there and it's going to be right. And then, so now it is towards the right area. Anything else I'm doing, basically I almost need to be rescued off of this, you know. Somebody literally need to come in and just snatch me off the painting. All right, man, you're done. Get off of it. You know? Else I might just wind up painting this thing like forever, you know. You know, just keep, then it will be photorealistic at that point. You know, just keep going. And then sometimes you just paint it so much till you start messing it up. And then if you just don't want to mess it up even worse, you got to stop. And that's when it's bad. That's when it's really bad. You don't want to have your paint like that. But I have been there before with some paintings. Not to say there's any of these is in the studio, but a long time ago. And I learned how to not get there, do that particular mistake. I'm not going to say like that are like beginning mistakes, you know, for rookies or something, but it's just something like, man, that painting was like singing, man. That painting was just looking so nice. I was loving everything about this painting. And now I don't love it as much anymore. What did I do? You know, that kind of thing. You know, what's that? B.B. King said, the thrill is gone, baby. What did I do? And what you did was you just painted too much. You went crazy. It's kind of like the girl, you're dating her, and you're just too good to her. And she just ain't used to a guy that's as good as you, being that good to her. So she mistreats all your goodness. And then you finally had enough and you break up with her. Then she come back and say, you know, you were the best boyfriend I ever had. I don't know why I mistreated you and messed up so much. Will you come back? Of course you say, no, because I got another girl now. And I don't want to go through that again with you. No. You've done enough damages, you know. And I've learned from this and I'm moving on. You know, that kind of stuff happens. And that's how it is, you know, with the painting. You treat it, you know, you want to treat your paintings good. But sometimes you can be so good to the painting till you mess it up. Sometimes you can be so good to the girl that you mess her up. Just too good to her. Sometimes you just gotta not treat her so good. Not because you want to not treat her so good, so she don't take you for granted. You know? I like it better when he continues to do this. Why you stop? Because I saw you kind of pulling back a little bit on something on me. Not to say I think like that. I had a friend, I ain't gonna even mention his name. He thinks like that, and we get to talk. He come right over here in my studio. I mean, he's more or less on the film or the video side of the stuff that I do. He's not on the painting side. He thinks that we sit there, we talk about all kinds of stuff, relationships and all kinds of stuff. He got a little. Both of us got a sense of humor. But we sit there, we be cracking some serious stuff, man, and some stuff we done dealt with, gone through, talked about. Serious stuff, man. But a lot of times you got, you know, a lot of times, I remember he moved up to D.C., so don't come around no more because he's living up in D.C. and he got him a little girl up there. So it's all over with now. So he's doing that thing. It's not all over. I mean, he's good for him. He's doing his thing. He's happy. But he don't come by my studio anymore. Let's put it that way. Because it's too far away. But he calls from time to time, but then he gets on my nerves, you know. Because talk about a lot of, well, stuff I don't like. Let's put it that way. But he's still a good friend, but, you know. We don't have the same, you know, fun times like we used to have. So I think people change, you know. I don't think I changed. I think maybe I did change. Both of us changed. All right, so just touching up the little boat. Sometimes I see something in one boat and go back to the other one. So now I'm working on this boat. I mean, that's like 5 strokes of the brush, and I painted that one. So now I'm gonna go, and it don't even look like the example. So, but it does look like the example from 15 feet away. The difference is when it's 2 feet away, it looks different. Okay, that's interesting. That's really interesting. It's interesting even the way I painted that when I first painted it, and I didn't even pay attention. Now that I can actually learn from myself. You know, when you get to look at how somebody's paint is, you know. What did they do to do that? Why did they do it that way? What, when, where, and how? Okay, so I'm just trying to get my paint to the right consistency here because sometimes that's everything. A lot of times when you paint in details, you want your paint to be able to move with the brush the way you're moving with the brush. But and so you want it thin enough so it can flow nicely. But you don't want it too thin that it goes on, it's kind of like wispy. When I say wispy, you can see through it, you know. And sometimes I do want the paint to see through. Other times I want a nice opaque paint. I don't want the paint to be seen through. In this case, I don't want it to be seen through so much. It probably doesn't matter with this little small detail like this. But like I say, when that person's head is as close to mine, right now I'm much closer than 24 inches. I think 24 inches is like this. So I'm basically 18 inches away, I guess. That's where my head is. Then at times my head is like a foot away because I have to see it to paint it. But I guess people will want to still observe it, because I used to get close to paintings too. I remember many days I'm in the gallery and the security guard says, "Sir, you're standing too close to the painting. Sir, could you back up, please?" I was that guy. And he just had to keep telling me, "Sir, but just first back up." Then I said, "Well, you just told me that 5 minutes ago and I backed up." But evidently I didn't back up enough. So I guess I gave these guys pretty much, they was like, here he is, he's coming again. Sometimes I give them a week or so off. Then I'll just come back, too close to the painting again. Because I'm going to the galleries to learn. That's kind of my, it's a very inexpensive school. I mean, I already know how to paint. But now you need to know how to see something, how to express something with the paint. And so that's different. Like I was telling you about the people from Asia. For centuries, they were expressing certain things about their visual arts in that particular family, it seemed like, a certain way. They've been doing it for a long time. That's the way they make their shtick. That's how they do their thing. And you got to go all the way to China to see that, And even when you're in China, or wherever they were from, somewhere in Asia, East Asia, only they're the ones doing it. I mean, I'm sure there's others doing it, but as far as being on the internet and me getting to see it, they're the ones doing it. They're the only ones I've seen do it. And it's very interesting stuff. And then I'm like, well, how do I incorporate some of that in my painting? I think in the next Ra on the Throne painting, I already got ideas. I was just thinking about that today. I'm getting ready to do Ra on the Throne. When I saw that Oriental painting, these people doing this work, and really, really quick gestural movements, just body movements, really. Type of actions, translate, and just, complete the laws of physics and everything was making these paintings, They weren't even using a brush, they were using gravity. I was like, oh my gosh. And it doesn't matter to me. You don't have to make something look realistic. It just has to look pleasant. Somebody has to think it's nice. That's art. It has to think it's nice. Doesn't have to look photorealistic to be good. I think we've gotten into that because, like I say, a lot of the European culture, in terms of what we call art, came out of the fact that these very wealthy Europeans, a duke or earl or a king or queen or count or somebody like that, wanted people to see their pictures. So they hired these artists basically to be a photographer today. The equivalent of a modern day photographer. That's what they were hired for. They really had a function. It was not art for art's sake. Let's put it that way. Today, it's art for art's sake. People make art simply because for art, just simply to be shown in a gallery, to be viewed, to be looked at and admired by somebody. But in the European tradition, it started off. The reality is, it actually started off with Christian, the Christian leaders knew that some of Europe was illiterate. They couldn't read, People just got to the level where most people could read just in the last 100 years or so. But before then, the average human being on the planet Earth, that's why we have hieroglyphics. They couldn't read. They literally could not read. But they knew what a picture could say. You could say with a picture what the Last Supper was like of Jesus. So you could tell The guy could tell that story in a church service verbally. And then a person would observe the picture at the 16th ceiling right after that service and remember the story because there is a picture of what he talked about. It was kind of like in the old days where you have where you were a kid and you had a picture book, and the person would read. Okay, this is a little bunny rabbit character in the briar patch, and bunny rabbit found the Easter egg, and then of course they just show you after they finish reading that. That's all they got to read on that. So then your parent would kind of show you the picture, like a bedtime story. You see, oh, look at the little bunny rabbit. Oh, thanks, Mom. And then there's your little bunny rabbit character, there, and you kind of like, oh, okay, that's a great story, Mom. Now I'm ready to go to bed. And you go to bed. Well, it's a picture book. So basically, that's how Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, all of the old school masters, there was a need, and then people were donating money to the church, and they were building buildings. But they found out that most people, and then it was probably people coming from other countries, the Germanic countries was coming in. They didn't speak Latin, They didn't speak Latin. You know why they didn't speak Latin? Because the French speak one version of Latin. The Romanian people speak a different version of Latin. The Spanish people speak another version of Latin. Even the English people speak a version of Latin. As well as the German people themselves, still today, there's Latin in the language. So, bottom line is, it was important for all these conversion cultures that was converging at the time to understand, whatever the culture, the power brokers in the culture was trying to teach. At that time, it was Christianity. Christianity became the religion of the state after Constantine. Before Constantine, it was Zeus. Zeus was the religion of the state, the Olympian system. And of course, what happened was they fought a war against the Parthians, where Constantine needed the Christians to help him. Else, they would be all. And this is before the Persians had, we call it Persians, the Iranians and the Iraqis. This is before they had Islam. These groups were always fighting each other. Even before there was a religion, before there was a crusade. That's what Alexander the Great was doing. They never stopped. These groups never stopped fighting each other. Alexander the Great against Darius continues even into modern time. It's the same thing. Call it whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. Okay, so now we have another boat sitting there. Okay, so now I have 3 boats. Now that just made a whole different look on that thing. My boats on the river look different. And I would say it's made a big effect. Who would think that something this big on the canvas can change the whole look of my whole waterway that I painted in there? Everything looks different. Now I almost even have to paint the water slightly different because I did that. Very interesting. Okay. And I think I shall go in here I don't know if I want this, well, getting close to it, I think I want this tiny brush, but in a minute I'm gonna switch up to a bigger brush. But for right now, I'm just gonna make this paint underneath this boat looks a little bit more interesting. Need some more glow come out that color. A little bit more than what's there. It's looking pretty good now. And this is the time of year where temperatures constantly switching around. The morning, it feels like it's getting a little cool. Then the evening kind of warms up. And all of a sudden, it's cool again. And then so you set your thermostat all these different ways, and the little thermostat just get all confused and is making that place too warm, too cold. So then you say, I'm just going to do it manual. I'm just going to turn it off and turn it on because this thing got me too hot up in here. I think I'm having one of the moments right now in my studio. I think my thermostat is just a smidge too warm right now because I anticipated it getting warm. I think it didn't get, getting cool. But it didn't get as cool as I thought it would at this particular time. So I'm just painting the water around this boat just a little bit better than when I had it, because the boat has changed. By virtue of me just painting it more accurate to my example, because I gestured it in. I painted it gesturally. And I painted this thing in it seemed like about literally 5 strokes of the brush. And it seemed like it was done. And it worked all the way to right now. It looked good. But then when I decided, this is my detail day for putting my finishing touches, and then once these touches are done, I realized, you know what? It's not working. I got a different thought about it now. I don't know if I want to do it that way. Let me try another way now. And so the great thing about it is I am painting wet on dry for the most part, except for where I just put color down. Of course, then that's the part that's going to be a little small, different little area, going to be wet on wet. And you're painting water. There's just a little teeny little shadows on the water, little teeny waves, this and that, that and the other. But I'm going to paint it with a broader brush in a minute. But what I want to do is kind of get around it so that I can use a broader brush further away from the object I just painted, so I don't disturb all this meticulous painting I just done. And not that the paint is that meticulous, because I really don't want it to look mechanical. I do not want this painting to look mechanical. I do not want it to look that photorealistic mechanical. I want it to look figuratively realistic. Which still is going to look good. To me, I think it looks good. But, if you're expecting a super photorealistic painting, well, no, this is not quite that. But is it realistic? Yes. Does it need to be photorealistic? No. And it might take away from it, because it looked like, okay, this is a picture you got, and you just took some glue and stuck it on a canvas. You know, just look like it's pressed in, and you know, everything has to work as an illusion. You know, it has to work together. So some things you gotta fudge it this way. You gotta make it look painterly. If the example you have don't have that much detail, you can't paint that detail. And then also there's certain places you don't want the person's eye to be focused on, so you don't want to paint in that kind of detail. You just don't want the detail there. So, you know, you're trying to make an actual painting. You're trying to lead people around in the traditional way of making a painting. As opposed to, because photorealism basically came into vogue around the 19th century. And really, like Chuck Close and Richard Estes, they're the ones that really still do it today. They're still alive. And they were the ones that kind of like are the superstars of that. I mean, they did it a long time ago. They're still doing it. And not too many people better than them. I mean, you can be better than them, but that's their stake, you know. No matter what happens, since they did it so long ago, you're basically kind of copying their thing, you know. It's theirs. They've been doing it since 1960s, 1950s. Maybe some of them been doing it since the 1940s. Then you got this new thing called, well, I don't know how new it is, but I think it started in the 70s, called hyperrealism, where it's like beyond photorealism. It's like super hyper. To me, you just turn yourself into a inkjet printer. You know, you cease to be an artist and you turn into literally a human inkjet printer. But yet you're much slower than an inkjet printer. I don't know about that, you know. I'm still thinking about that. I don't know if you want to do hyper-realism. I don't know. First of all, it's going to take you a while to do it, a long time to do it. And a photograph, a camera can do it. A printer can do it. I mean, what's the purpose? You could do it another way, faster and better. There's people with Wacom tablets that do it commercially on magazines and internet sites now. You know, it's becoming. Need to kind of do some erasing there. It's becoming kind of like cliche, so to speak. It's old. It's an old thing. It's not new. It's not innovative. So it's nice to be able to do, you know, hey, that's photorealistic. That's an accomplishment. You know, I actually took something, made it look very photorealistic. But again, why? You know, people have done that, you know, 50, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, or longer. So what are you, you know, is that something new? And like I say, my work is about fantasy. My work is about, it's about making a person feel, you know, something about a place, about something. You know, get lost in a dream about something, you know? Or just to you know, like I say, it's, everybody got their own thing. They got their own way, their own, the thing that they do. Everybody has that. Most people don't have the same exact art, you know? They have different ways of making art. Just as sure as there's different artists, it's different art, you know? And And they all have different convictions about their art, even what they think art is. I guess I'm no exception to that. And I might be getting it wrong, you know. But I don't know. I don't think so. I think I've been thinking about this for a while. I don't think I'm getting it wrong. But now you have art for art's sake. Nobody's just doing portraits of very wealthy, powerful people anymore. They just want to make pictures that can interest people. So the definition of art is very subjective. There's no absolute answer. And what it boils down to, almost anything somebody make, even if it's like arts and crafty kind of stuff, can be labeled as art. Because literally, it's something that makes a person feel good about a certain thing. Visually. That's what visual arts is, and that's what fine arts is. Just somebody who is doing it on a high level. Really, that could be anybody who's doing it on a high level. Don't necessarily have to have a degree in it. I do have one, but you don't have to have one. I think it makes a nice, fun foundation for me. And for me, what it did for me actually was make me so I can have a career where I had to do nothing else. Well, I've done some other things. And those are just sidetrack things that I tend to keep kind of private. But for the most part, I never had to do any other job since I graduated college but art related. All the money, everything I've ever done was made through my art skill. Now, even though I did commercial art, it was made through my art skill. And so without actually going to art school, I don't think I'd have been able to circumnavigate, and do that. I probably would have had to compromise and do something else a while, because I wouldn't have known, I wouldn't have been as versatile. I wouldn't have been taught or trained or made to think more versatilely, or, not made to think, but I had a lot of skills that was built up. There's a lot of things I could do that I was exposed to that I don't know if that would have happened organically or not. It could have, it may have, I don't know. I actually don't know that.